Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Issues with Toddy One Skip. I am Toddy One Skip. Guys, I am this close to 1,000 subscribers. And that's because of you. And you and you and you and you and you and 1,000 times. Guys, I wanted to mention some names of the people that have been supportive from the get-go. But I don't want to do it because I'm going to leave some people out. And when that happens, it hurts people's feelings. And I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So I just want to say thank you so much. I so appreciate that you have given me a chance and that you spend time with me every time I put a video up. Because as soon as they go up, I see how many people view them. So you're hitting that button, the bell notification, because you want to know what I have to say. And, you know, I'm humbled by that. So thank you. So that's the first thing that I wanted to say. The second thing that I wanted to say is Danny Masterson got beat up. We don't know how bad he got beat up. Now, I know that that's something that we've discussed, and some of you think that I'm a little rough on my prison justice or prison punishments. I call jail justice prison punishments. A lot of you actually have thought that maybe I was a little too cruel when it came to Danny. I don't think that. I'm not losing sleep if something happens to Danny, but I'm not paying people to hit Danny, and I'm not suggesting anybody hits Danny, but that was bound to happen because of his charges and who he was. And I don't have a problem with it because in the background, I have a bunch of true crime going on, you know, as far as when I say in the background, I mean my television. I'm hearing stuff now. And just the way people treat other people and how they can destroy somebody's life because of something that they want is criminal. And because those acts are criminal, they get put in a place with other criminals. Well, it's not daycare. It is a place filled with criminals. So their mind is being a criminal. And inside of that jail, or prison, is a culture. And that culture is very different than stuff in the outside world. So guys, I want you to think about that for a second. Okay? So there is a lot of downtime in prison. A lot. So downtime, just time where you're just left to do absolutely nothing. Day after day after day after day after day. And you're in these dorms with other inmates. People are telling their stories. How'd you get in here? This is what I want to do when I get out. Hey, man, did you see that person? I want them. You know, this is... You heard guilt by association. I've mentioned that term, and everybody has heard that term, right? Like, so sometimes when there's bad people, we might not want to be involved in what they're doing or saying. There's not a lot of places to go in prison to get away from that. So a lot of times prisoners plan better while they're incarcerated. So let's say somebody obviously got caught. That's why they're in prison. They might think, and it's possible because it happens, they might think, ah, shit, if I just wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have been caught. So while they're sitting in there, in their downtime, if they're by themselves, a lot of them think of how to perfect that crime, how to become a better criminal, because there's not a lot of rehabilitation in prisons. There's not a lot of anything other than you just sitting there watching TV and bullshitting. And that, too, can get old. Even though I know some people are like, wow, that sounds pretty good. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. That, too, can get old. And if you're sitting by yourself, that's a gigantic mind fuck. Like, I really don't know anybody that I have met that wanted to be in the SHU, alone, solitary, special housing unit. I didn't know anybody that really wanted to be there, though there were several people there that were there for their own protection, sometimes age. I know that we had a younger person in the facility that we were holding for horrific crimes. Couldn't be brought in and kept with the general pop because he was young, general population, the rest of the people in the jail, because the kid was a juvenile. Yet he did such a horrific crime that we held him in the county jail in the SHU for his own protection. But he didn't like to be in there, even though he knew that it wasn't cool for him to be outside of there. It was still, you're sitting there with your own dark thoughts. So nobody really likes being in the SHU. There's no television set in the SHU. There's no, sometimes you can't even get any kind of reading material in there. It depends on if they're putting you in there for your own protection or if they're putting you in there because you've been penalized for something and that's where you're going. So, but no matter what, there's a lot of time and a lot of people telling their stories, and a lot of times, and people will tell you this, that jail sometimes only perfects the criminals on their next crime because they're not in there learning good stuff. They're around a bunch of people talking about bad shit. How to get over on people, how to get over on my girlfriend. I got 5 of them. I'm writing the same letter to all of them, and they're all putting money on my books. That's a con. That's not, that might be hurting somebody financially, which could also be a ripple effect. They're not learning anything. You know what I'm saying? The people that have gotten in there and have shown remorse and have said, man, this isn't the place for me. I'm just going to get it right next time. If I get out of here, I'm just going to get out of here. I'm going to do it right. That mentality is pretty much there when you get locked. You could see the difference. I could see the difference between people that I thought would be coming back and the ones that were like, that I thought, man, they're not coming back. They've had enough. They've learned their lesson. You have to have something inside of you that says, oh man, I did something wrong and I want to make it right. Danny Masterson wasn't that person. He never, ever, ever, ever said, I'm sorry. I did the wrong thing. I'm going to go get help. Nothing. He said he didn't do it. He called these women crazy. He said that these women, he's going to prove the truth. And now he's afraid, and he should be afraid, But there's an awful lot of time that you're doing in there, a lot of dead time, down time that is just horrible. And you're only hearing stories. It's not. I don't think prison makes anybody a better person. So, the culture is completely different, just completely different. And the rules change in the dorm areas depending on who's the inmate running the dorm area. There's always a top dog somewhere. I know that seems like something you see on television. There's always somebody running a cell block. And it's not always the correctional officers. So, the whole culture there has changed, and Danny's not used to that. And yeah, again, if you don't want to go to a place that has a totally different culture and you don't want to embrace that culture or become part of that culture, you don't move there. So therefore, you don't do things to move there. You don't pack your bags. You don't buy tickets. You don't plan on doing that. But that's not what Danny did. Danny continued his horrible behavior, and I believe he would have continued his horrible behavior. God only knows about him and his marriage, because, Bijou, his wife, if you look her up online, she's got a dark past too. Dark past too. So, her dad was from the Mamas and Papas, John Phillips, and Papa John, Mackenzie Phillips, One Day at a Time, long, long time ago, One Day at a Time, not the new revamp of the show, said that her dad did improper things to her. Bijou does have a darkness to her. She was a Scientologist, so didn't get any mental health because they don't encourage that. They discourage that. They will have you sweat things out. They will have you hold cans. They will have you repeat the trauma over and over again so that you become desensitized to it. Like, that's not a way. Desensitize people to trauma so that they could what? They won't know what real trauma is if they perpetrate it onto somebody else. That's Scientology's way, right? And everything that they obviously have done, or everything that they've gotten in life, good or bad, usually bad, is what they pulled in. So, because Scientology, as you know, anything bad that happens to you, you pulled it in. Anything good that happens to you is Scientology that brought that to you. So we already know that. So back to the culture in the jail, because Danny came from one culture. So now this is a whole other culture, and it's totally different because the prison world is so small. And because it's filled with a bunch of people with a bunch of problems. Because I still don't understand how somebody could physically hurt somebody and not feel any kind of remorse for that. And that's something that we are innate. We have that inside of us. We're not taught to feel feelings. Our feelings are natural. And if they're not, something is broken. Now, I don't know enough about that, but as you guys know, I've been a counselor for years. I was a drugs counselor with juveniles. I had to hit on some of these things that we're talking about. Now, you don't have to agree with me, but I haven't really changed my mind after working in the jails and then working in a juvenile residential drug treatment center. And again, some of the juveniles were 17, 18 years old. So there are people that do things to people and just go on with their life, not caring that they've destroyed other people's lives. Danny Masterson was one of those people. Because if I know that you guys know that these women's lives will never be the same again. Their trust value has been changed. The way that they look at the world has been changed. The way they're going to raise their kids have been changed. The way that they worry about their parents has been changed. Everything has been changed about them, and it doesn't go away. Even if they get all the help in the world, they still have that trauma. Danny caused that trauma. So far, 12 people have come forward. 3 he was able to be prosecuted against. But that's a real crime too. And I know you guys understand that. And then you say, well, 2 wrongs don't make a right. That's correct. But why should this guy be able to live comfortably in the real world? He shouldn't, right? In the real world, he shouldn't be able to get these great jobs, to appear on television, safe, and to have some sort of influence on people, which is what was going on until the ranch finally fired him. So, and then he didn't have a job after that. Then he was just basically, complaining that he didn't have a job and fighting to stay out of jail or prison. Yeah, because you had to go to jail before you go to prison. So, what was he learning when he was talking about donkey punch and just horrible. He learned nothing. He had already committed those crimes. He learned nothing. He was laughing. When somebody said, I heard about him, like there was a late night talk show guest that said, yeah, I heard about you. And he said, yeah. And he said, yeah, you're going to get caught. Yeah, I probably will. Right underneath our noses. So now he's got caught, and he is doing his time. And I don't have a problem with that. And he supposedly got smashed up in Corcoran, where he was he was being escorted by at least one officer, because usually it's a couple. But, as we know, everybody is having a hard time employing people. I can't see where the California prison system would have a better time employing COs. Everybody's hurting for them. So, and California is supposedly very, very rough out there. So, I don't know how much they pay their COs, but is it worth it when things like pop off like that? No. So, I don't know how many COs Danny was being escorted by, but what's out is that he was going, because he was refusing everything. He was refusing to go out and shower, refusing to go to the yard, refusing to eat. He was refusing. So they were escorting him. Where they were escorting him, but maybe they were escorting him to the mental health block that he went into. You remember when he went for 10 days? So maybe on the way to that. Anyway, he got hit up by two guys from a gang called the BBC. So it's Brothers by Choice, and it's a white Aryan gang. I mean, it's a white supremacy. It's white supremacists. So supposedly they got their hands on him, even with the escort of one or two COs. And I don't know how bad he was. I can't find out how bad he was hurt. But in the meantime, because they got him, he's been moved to the California Men's Colony in San Luis Obispo, halfway between LA and San Francisco. So he's in San Luis Obispo County, and that facility has changed a little bit. But I was watching a video on that facility, and that facility was like, I don't know if they still do it, but it was a very easy place to do your time. That's where they had the older inmates sent, like inmates with dementia, inmates that are getting poorly as they're aging, and that's where they were sent. But there has been changes in the California prison system, and I'm not too sure that that's the way that prison is set up anymore. So there's an east and a west side, and the east side is a level 3 medium security prison. So Danny was in a level 4 max, okay? And I guess he was dropped down to this yard, which has level 3 and level 2, probably on level 3, I would think. Why was Danny moved around? Well, I think we're helping him, unfortunately, because social media has made him such a target that now he really is a trophy. I know you guys have seen that and heard that, and it's no joke. That's the best word I can use to describe it. Everybody wants a piece of him so that they can get some notoriety and be talked about on these channels, just like I brought up the BBC, Brothers by Choice. So, so we're kind of helping him be safe, I guess, but not really, because he did get hit. But here's the thing. California does not want to lose Danny Masterson right now. That would be huge for them, because if something were to physically really happen to him, and he was to get on their watch, that doesn't look too good with everybody out here talking about how dangerous. How do we know how dangerous it is for him inside? They have to know how dangerous it is for him inside. And therefore, it doesn't look too good if there's people on the outside telling you what's going on the inside and how it's working on the inside and who has hits out on Danny than it is on the people in the prisons working inside. And then if something happens to them, they have a lot of explaining to do. And people can turn around and say, well, it was all over social media. How could they not know? So, however, it didn't save him from getting jumped. And again, is he safe now in this prison? Danny is only safe if Danny stays in a single cell block. And from my understanding, they don't really have that there. It's more of a dorm situation. So, yeah. Actually, there's a couple videos that I want to latch on to this video from a few content creators that have actually done time in prison. And, one of them is a little comedic, and I'm going to add it because I thought it was a little comedic, and I'm sure some of you aren't going to like it, but it's real, it's just going to be real. And kind of the attitude of the inmates inside. And this is an inmate on the outside, so he's no longer an inmate, but he's been locked up, and he knows he knows the language, he knows the way things work, and he knows the attitudes of the way things happen inside these yards. So I'm going to go ahead and put those up. We'll talk about them real quick. Okay?
Right, cuz. I don't see that. If anything, I think they actually moved them to an area with more liberties and freedoms, so it's going to be worse. See, when you're in a 4-yard and they're able to focus on you, see, they keep people, usually, there's 270 designs, and then there's 180. The 180 is more monitored, right? Not as relaxed. They're really focused on what's going on. Albeit when shit cracks, there's bodies. Motherfuckers don't play on 180-yard level 4, but they're able to watch you closely. On these more open yards, where you got a bunch of chilos running around and shit, they're not watching us closely. And there is where bad things happen. Because, hey, next thing you know, there's a lot of blind spots. You end up around the corner. What happened? Oh, no, there's some fucking white dude back there getting boned. Seriously, he has curly ass hair. He just looks like that guy from that 70s show, right?
So that was Collective Clips on YouTube. He definitely has a very strong personality, and he's got a comedic side to him. So, but he's talking about, being in a yard that is maximum security where people are on guard all the time, and then dropping down a step to a medium yard where there's more freedoms and liberties, which gives inmates a chance to interact with each other, and the ratio of inmates to guards. So he's speaking the truth, obviously. So the next clip I'm going to show you is from another content creator, and he's just going to show what it's like in the prison that Danny is now in, and hit on some of the points that I said about inmates with dementia and stuff like that. So.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Like I said, this puppy's laid back. It's going to show in this video inmates, speaking on their time in there. It doesn't have anything to do with Danny Masterson himself. I'm just here to show you the place he's going to be living in. Appreciate y'all. Let's roll.
Growing old in prison is hard.
Kind of looks like San Quentin a bit.
They just struggle with the reality of just, being in prison. They don't believe they're in prison. They don't know why they're in prison.
Samuel Baxter, all right, I believe he's the star of this episode. There's a meaning to the uniforms in this prison. I think the gold coats, like what he's wearing, is volunteers.
That's the biggest struggle I see most of the guys have,
Samuel Baxter is an inmate here at the California Men's Colony Prison in San Luis Obispo. Almost every day for the past 4 years, Baxter has helped elderly prisoners get dressed, eat, and get about prison. It is a confronting job.
He was an elderly gentleman, about 70, and I should take him over to the clinic to get his insulin shot. So I remember one morning I came down, and he was standing in the cell, and I think he had a shoe in his hand. And he was just standing in the middle floor crying, And I tapped on the door. I called him by his name, and he just looked at me, and he was like, "What am I doing here?"
In America, some 2.2 million people are behind bars, and the prisoners are getting older. The number of people over the age of 65 who are in prison has doubled since 2007. In fact, aging men and women are the most rapidly growing part of America's prison population.
I mean, look at this yard. This is what he's probably going to have to be walking around in right here. At least it's got some grass. It seems like a typical yard, though, just with some pull-up and dip bars. No netting on the soccer ball goal. What's the point of having the goal, then? This is a pretty cool little layout. Look, you even got a mountain view in the back over here. Trees. And look, everybody, I don't know if these are cells. Oh, yeah, they are cells, if I were to guess. Look, they got them numbered on the outside. So that if something happens from that window, they know exactly what cell it was. That's pretty crazy. I've never seen that before.
In part, this is the hangover effect of the 1980s and 90s, when a perfect storm of high crime rates and
wow, that's a nice guard tower there. Look, I hate to pause it, but I'm really just taking in the scenery. I want to see what he's going to be looking at.
tough sentencing laws caused prison populations to soar down the state.
Ooh, so this is the kind of trays that Mr. Masterson is going to be eating off of right here, y'all. And this is some of the food. God, peas? I hate peas. I'd eat them in there, though. Gotta get your greens, right? And look at those, what are those, butter beans? Great season. Got a little salad. Got some stroganoff, it looks like. But this is definitely state-of-the-art prison tray.
That the dementia is set in, or he's going down.
The dementia has set in. That's what homeboy said. Look, imagine one of these cats, going to help the dude with dementia. And dude's like, this dude right here, he's like, bro, you're in prison, man. That's just how, prison, bro. Welcome. Every day he welcomes him to prison. Oh, my.
Glenn Kreitz has been in prison for 44 years, since he was 20 years old, for murder. He remembers catching another elderly prisoner, nicknamed Pops, staring at him.
Somebody introduced us, and he kept looking at me like he was Mad Dog. We call it Mad Dog. And he was
Mad Dog.
like, who the hell are you? And I was taking offense to it.
Pops had Alzheimer's. He was trying to remember who Mr. Kreitz was.
And in prison, little gestures will get you in trouble.
Just making sure they're okay.
Of the 1.6 million inmates in state and federal prisons, a tenth are serving life sentences. Many politicians are now keen to reverse this mass incarceration, but long time.
And look, there's two sides to this prison, the west and east side. So I'm not sure if he's going to come to this medical side, but if I were to guess, they're going to put him in the safest spot possible. They're already moving him from corporate already. So,
right, guys. So that's what I have to show you and talk to you about as far as the Danny Masterson update and where he's at and what it looks like there and the attitude of the inmates that could be there and what his tray looks like. Guys, please talk to me in the chat. Tell me what you think. We're not always going to agree, but that's okay. That's what communication is about. This is Issues with Toddy One Skip. Again, I thank you so much for your support. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, and share. If you don't like me, then you can unsubscribe from me. Thanks, guys. Don't forget, be better today than you were yesterday, but not half as good as you're going to be tomorrow. Thanks.